Hello, welcome to my first devlog. The Marble model is an interactive web app visualizing electricity. I once tried developing a devlog series, but then I realized that producing 40-minute video clips is probably not a good idea in order to keep viewers. So I decided to make shorter clips. I also decided against keeping a chronological order to keep things more interesting. Because of that, the very first clip here will be about the battery, one of the main items in this application. If viewers are interested, many other topics will follow, like a chronological order, how the project developed. As an example, let me tell you, the very first prototype was written in JavaScript, and JavaScript became obsolete in Unity, so I had to rewrite the whole program in another language. I had to learn C#, and I had to multiple times start from scratch with this project. So I had multiple prototypes for this project idea, and at this point now I have an idea where the path is going to. In order to keep things interesting, I'm planning at the moment to have a application built like an educational web app, but I'm also planning to have one version as a game. Within the game, you would have the possibility to walk around like in a usual first-person game, and you would be able to build the very same items which were intended to be part of the original program. However, the concept of the game version is a whole topic for itself. And now let's get back to the original topic for today's video: the battery. In this reality mode, you can see the items visualized in a more realistic way. The textures are still missing. I can increase and decrease the pressure of electrons, the voltage on the battery. In this sketch mode, you can see how the pipes are being colored. Depending on the pressure of the electrons, the pipes become more and more red, or they become more and more blue if the pressure is negative. If we are aiming with a crosshair on specific pipes, these pipes become transparent, so that you can see the marbles symbolizing the electrons going through those pipes. Because this is a model, we can obviously not color electrons in real life, and I had to come up with an idea on where to set the starting point of this coloring process. So we have this flag also symbolizing a brush, or let's say it's a brush symbolizing a flag, and depending on where I set this brush, the potential level becomes 0. In this allegory mode, I have two different models of the battery. The first model I'd like to present is a variation and a representation of a syringe. The number of bricks on the top coil of the syringe symbolizes the voltage the battery builds up. If we increase the voltage value, the number of bricks also increases. And the more bricks we have, the higher the pressure below the main coil becomes, and also the parts of the pipes become more and more red. The gear version of the battery is a second model of the battery within this mode. I had to overcome many obstacles in order to create this variation of the battery model the way it looks today. I had to watch some tutorials about creating a silver screen within the game itself. This wasn't the main problem. The main problem was the coil. I could have used a scale modifier, but I also wanted to keep the thickness of the coil wire itself. So I had to learn how to create and modify meshes with scripts. This would be another topic for itself. In the very first sketches I had the idea of the battery pushing water forwards. In the first variation of the gear version, the battery had 4 coils, but I finally decided against having 4 coils because I was lazy, and it also makes it more understandable if you only have to see one single coil, I assume at least. But the main reason was it makes it even simpler to understand circumstances. At the beginning I didn't know how to visualize the different dependencies of all components in a circuit. I tried visualizing the pressure of the electrons with the distance between the electrons, but this caused a huge commotion during the process of changing the voltage at batteries. So I created a script for a smooth transfer of the voltage value at batteries, but this finally caused that electrons appeared out of thin air, out of a specific point in the electric circuit. This probably would have caused more confusion. So I came up with the idea of coloring the electrons instead of changing the distance between them. In the first version, the doors were built out of multiple game objects, and the feet were game objects which were moved by script. It was similar to a Super Mario 64 figure. So I was watching multiple series on character design and rigging and also animating those figures. It was very time consuming, but I still managed to create one, and I also paused this idea of creating multiple figures because it was really time consuming. Blender has a new experimental export option, and I wish it would have come many years before. This function makes creating game objects much easier. It still has some problems in exporting animated figures. Some tasks that appear simple took me quite a lot of time. Figuring out how to modify the animation speed took quite longer than I expected. Hence we see the voltage influences the pressure on the wheel, but it does not influence the velocity of the wheel. At the end of this first video, I'd like to also present the cascade variation of the battery. I finally managed to recreate the pump model. The next video will be probably about the bulb. Thanks for watching.